I'm John Batchelor. Good evening. Nothing but news. We've got to get right to it because the news cycle continues. Nan Hayworth of 19th New York, member of Congress, is with me in studio. David Drucker of Roll Call is at WMAL in Washington. And we're joined by two members of the press, Tegan Goddard of Political Wire and Selena Zito of the Pittsburgh Tribune-Review. First up is the announcement coming from the White House that the chairman of the Council of Economic Advisors, Austin Goolsbee, resigns his post and resumes what is called his teaching position at the University of Chicago Graduate School of Business. This is a surprise after the Friday numbers. I ask a member of Congress, Austin Goolsbee didn't create those awful job numbers on Friday, Nan, but it looks like he's walked the plank for the White House.
You know, John, Austin Goolsbee lent his name to the Obama administration's failed economic policies, and look at the string he follows. Christina Romer, then Larry Summers, then Peter Orszag, and now Austin Goolsbee. It certainly makes you wonder who's actually been making the decisions in behalf of the administration, in behalf of the White House, and who is going to be left. And will anybody learn a lesson from this?
David, right now, this is stunning news, but we did see that the White House was not happy about the blind side on Friday morning. So can we say this is logical? They needed somebody to throw under the bus.
Well, I'd say it's logical that they're going to look to make a move to show the American people that they understand what's going on and they're serious about trying to fix things. And usually in this situation, it's the advisors that go. I would say what's interesting about this is that Austin Goolsbee has been with the president since the very beginning. He's not just an advisor, but a close advisor that I think the president likes and trusts. And even though it's common for administration officials to just get tired and need to go for their own sanity and to allow for fresh blood, I think this was clearly a result of what were many disappointing economic indicators that came out last week.
There's so much news. Everybody's allowed to comment, but I have to get on to the other piece of news of the day. Goolsbee goes because Weiner stays. I think they got this reversed. Tegan, good evening to you. Weiner is staying. Is that correct? The sum total of his lengthy, inarticulate, and I'd have to say impossible to watch press conference was that he's still a member of Congress. Is that right, Tegan?
That is right as of tonight, although there are indications that how the Democratic leader, Nancy Pelosi, might have sent a signal to him suggesting that he resign as quickly as possible. She's called for an ethics investigation, even though Weiner has said he's done nothing wrong. So he's essentially what he's done is he's admitted what he denied all of last week. So he's now admitted to lying to everyone involved, both personally and then to his constituents as well. And so the question is, what happens next? And unfortunately, if anyone who did watch that press conference, probably about 10 minutes through, thought that he was probably talking a bit too long, and he's given all sorts of leads for the press and media and potentially congressional investigators to follow to see if he actually did break a law or violate a House rule.
Selena, you know the minority leader very well. You knew her when she was Speaker. What is a signal that Mrs. Pelosi sends when she wants you to disappear from the planet? Is there a particular thing that arrives at your front door? Is it a horse's head in your bed? Is something like that?
An ethics investigation is pretty much telling you that you really need to get your ducks in order. That was the most painful thing I've ever watched on television in my life. I felt like I was in someone's therapist, like a fly on the wall in somebody's therapy session. It was really kind of difficult. I could almost imagine a staffer behind him, like yelling, "Cut, stop, Jesus, get off the stage." But, didn't happen.
Selena, now we have to move to the important piece of the news, which is we have a new presidential candidate. There's so much. I had to get through Goolsbee, then through Weiner, and now we get to the real news, which is Rick Santorum, whom you worked for once upon a time. You also worked for the other senator from Pennsylvania, Mr. Specter. Rick Santorum announces his presidency, and in announcing it, one of his admirers fainted in front of him. He paused and he prayed for her. Is this Rick, the sort of ungainly but modest and passionate person?
I think you captured him with those 3 words. Yeah, he is. He's a little awkward. He's very passionate. He's a little outside of mainstream, but he handled that situation, just as I would have expected him to do. Although, President Obama had plenty of people sitting in front of him. I thought it was probably a good thing for him, right? But he had an old-fashioned announcement today, so it was really fascinating to watch because he had a brass band playing. It was done in front of a county courthouse. You're in a coal town. Shanksville was 3 miles away, and there was this lots of flags waving, and it had an old-time feel to it, and so that part was executed well. But Palin sucked the energy out of the day where he announced that he was going to announce, and today Weiner sucked the energy out of his true announcement. So that kind of was unfair, if you're from the Santorum camp.
David, we'd have to say that Santorum just had a lot of bad luck today, right?
He did, but I don't know that it matters either way. It's early in the race. I'd say Santorum is a serious candidate without a serious chance of winning the nomination. He can compete for a certain percentage of what we're now calling values voters. And I know that there are some people in South Carolina that are excited about him. I think it'll be interesting to see if he can turn himself into a national figure, something he's never been, and create a real rationale for his presidential candidacy beyond, and I don't mean this in the wrong way, but beyond needing something to do in public life after his Senate career.
He's a member of your party, Nan, and what does this represent to you, his announcement as a candidate? Are you still looking around the field and you want to hear what he has to say, or do you regard him a marginal figure for what the Republican Party has to do?
Each of the men, they've all been men who have announced officially thus far, they have the potential to claim a piece of the Republican base. Senator Santorum has emphasized his social conservative bona fides. I think, speaking as a member of the House Republican Conference who's from the Northeast, that's not necessarily going to be where a lot of us want to place emphasis. And I think the size of our tent and our appeal to independence is going to be important in this upcoming election.
And Tegan, Santorum entering the field like this, did he surprise anybody with what he did today, or is this all predictable? Did we know this was going to happen?
Well, we knew that he was going to enter. Where he did actually surprise us was in his first interview, which he gave to ABC News this morning, and he essentially said that he's a lot braver than Representative Paul Ryan, who obviously introduced the budget that included major reforms to Medicare, because Santorum says not only would he touch Medicare, but he would touch the third rail of American politics. He would touch Social Security and believes Social Security needs to be reformed right now. And his statement was that not even Paul Ryan had the temerity to step forward and do what we have to do for Social Security. So it's an interesting political strategy. I can't begin to imagine what the Republican primary voter might think about that, but I can assure you that won't play well in the general election.
Selena, Austin Goolsbee, R.I.P., right?
Yeah, Austin was the figure that came out of the White House that was personable, that was warm, that connected with people. He was good with reporters, and he came across well in television interviews, and he did tons of them. I actually think it's a big loss for the Obama White House. I thought Austin was an asset for them. I know he's tied with the economic data, but in terms of communicating what the Obama administration is trying to do, Austin was top notch.
Selena Zito, the Pittsburgh Tribune Review. Tegan Goddard of Political Wire. David Drucker, my colleague and co-host at WMAL in Washington of Roll Call. And Nan Hayworth, member of Congress, Republican Conference, the House of Representatives, the 112th. Those are the people in charge. I'm John Batchelor.